Welcome to the very first Pure Brand Media Technology and Innovation podcast. Produced in association with the Business Innovation South Expo, this podcast focuses on the theme of shaping the future. We'll be talking to businesses about the critical issue of cybersecurity and the steps we need to take to protect ourselves from cybercrime. We'll also be looking at the green agenda and how businesses can help the environment by reducing their carbon footprint. Plus, we ask for your views on the future. What are the current tech trends? And will our working lives really be hitting the Hollywood heights of the sci-fi movie in coming years? Well, we're at the Chilworth Hotel near Southampton for the very first Business Innovation South Expo, an exhibition focused solely on the STEM sector and businesses connected to it. 65 organisations are exhibiting here today with seminars from key speakers covering a range of topical themes. One of those is cybersecurity, a subject very much in the spotlight at the moment. And with me in a very packed exhibition hall are three companies working at the very heart of it. Hello everyone.
Hello, my name is Stephen Haslett and I'm a cybersecurity and digital forensics consultant with Fusion Forensics.
I'm Paul Holland, I'm the CEO and founder of Beyond Encryption.
Andy James, Managing Director of Custodian 360.
So starting off then, we seem to hear about data breaches regularly, almost constantly in the news these days. Paul, this is really something we all need to be aware of, isn't it?
Pretty critical, I'd say, mission critical really these days. The impact of cyber attacks on businesses, individuals, is common day-to-day news these days. So trying to protect yourself against that, make sure you're looking after your clients' data, your comms, just looking after business as usual is really important.
So what are the biggest risks?
We see various editorial coverage around things like home buyer fraud. I mean, that's pretty prevalent these days. Where cyber criminals are intercepting information that's been sent between companies and individuals buying houses, and they're paying their deposit money to the wrong party because someone's changed the details. So, business email compromise. These all these worldwide issues. Some of the largest areas of cybercrime and loss are attributable to email, the unsecured nature of normal email. So for us, it's just a fundamental, and people are starting to really wake up to that, amongst other subjects, and some of the other exhibitors here are covering off some of those bases as well. So it's an interesting place to be as an audience, I think.
Now, you're one of those other exhibitors here, Andy. The risks to all types of businesses are real then?
Definitely. A lot of what we see are typically people trying to get information. So information is one of the most valuable things that we have these days. Everybody wants it. A lot of it we give away freely, but a lot of business information is held on a lot of computers that we use day in, day out. So if we can get, or the bad guys can get, something onto that machine that's essentially listening for those bits of information and then transmit them out, that's very valuable to would-be attackers. So there's those types of threats. Then we get into sort of other types of threats whereby you can target certain individuals within a business and fool them into doing something. Maybe sending money to a different account that they normally would do. There's those types of attacks. Then there's just sort of good old credential harvesting, trick somebody into logging into a fake web page, and then you've got access to their accounts. And then there's good old ransomware, which sort of ebbs and flows, rises and falls, but looks to be on the rise again now. Just classic extort money out of people. So all sorts of threats, ever-changing, ever more challenging ways of finding them.
And on the subject of finding them then, Stephen, that's what you do day in and day out. Clearly tracking down the criminals is pretty tricky.
One of the reasons why it makes it difficult is that the organisation or the client that we're actually dealing with have not got the monitoring put in place that allows us to work. So things like logging. If you're a small company out there and you're operating your email online or you're using the cloud, you should have your logging put on, because everybody will be breached. It's just a matter of time. It's like death and taxes. It will happen. So if it does happen, how can someone like myself go in, look at what has been going on and try and establish exactly how it happened, but who was responsible for it?
So looking forward, going forward into the future, do you think this is just something that's going to increase as a risk?
Well, absolutely. We're now domestically, we've now got televisions that access the internet. Your washing machine will talk to your fridge freezer, will talk to your car. Everything will be interconnected, and large corporations will try and offer solutions to domestic people and potentially to business customers to oversee and to manage those for you. And if one of those are compromised, because they're all different types of systems, then it could be potentially really dangerous for you. So yes, we can't get away. We're not going to go back into the Middle Ages where we're going to rely on pen and paper. Everything has gone digital now. It's irreversible. So how do you move forward? With a sense of security, with a sense of confidence. That's why you have to understand what you're using, how it's using it, what information it's actually holding and gathering for you, what it's actually sending out to is quite important. But also, if things go wrong, then how can I assess this? How can I find out exactly what's wrong, who was responsible for it, and move forward?
So what's your advice to small businesses who might be a little panicked listening to that kind of very clear definition of all the risks that they face?
Take a positive approach. Don't panic. It's important to understand what you have, what you use, where you use it, who has access to it, where you store it, and train your people.
Thanks, Stephen. And also to Andy and Paul talking about cybersecurity and the risks that we all face.
Pure Brand Media, audio production for business.
With climate change and the environment a major global issue, sustainability and our energy usage are very much at the top of the agenda for the business community. And we have 3 companies here who work very much at the heart of this sector. Hello, everyone.
Hi, I'm Jenny. I'm representing Zenergy today. We're an energy consultancy.
Dave Pollinger from Logical Energy Consultants.
My name's Sam Hughes and I'm the sales manager for Freedom Group UK.
So starting off then with you, Sam, are businesses really becoming more conscious of the green agenda these days?
Absolutely. I think with the pressures that are being put on and the the government that are trying to push as much green technology as possible, again, it's going to be at the forefront of people's minds when they're doing, let's say, building works or refurbishment in air conditioning systems and heating systems. And I think that's just going to push the idea that it is going to be more available and at a cheaper cost as well moving forward.
Cost is a big issue, especially for smaller businesses that might think, I haven't got the money or the resources to be dealing with any of that.
Yes, absolutely. There's a number of schemes out there available to homeowners or to landlords and to businesses to aid them in getting more of a green technology in their properties, such as the RHI or the ECA on commercial properties. And it just gives them that edge to be able to make that decision and change these technologies.
So Dave, then, on the subject of money, we're talking about businesses here. Do you think the desire for change is driven by money, or is it really wanting to do the right thing?
It really varies business to business, and actually whilst everybody has the environment on their agenda, everybody wants to do the right thing by the environment, there is still a strong drive that actually financially is one of the real reasons why they want to get it done and a need to get it done. But the good news is that you can do both at the same time. By installing these modern measures, you not only reduce your carbon footprint, but you also reduce your costs as well.
So what measures can small businesses take? Because I think a lot of the green agenda feels very much aimed at the big businesses that can afford to do this or make changes on a more global basis. What about the smaller businesses? What can they do to kind of help their carbon footprint?
Yeah, so the low-hanging fruit was always your lighting. That's the easiest one to change. That's the one that pays back the quickest. So you should be using modern LED lighting. If you've got fluorescent lights in the building, then you could save about 70% of your lighting bills. Your energy bills just by changing the lighting. So that's the low-hanging fruit, right the way through to making sure your systems are working together. So your air conditioning, make sure it's not fighting with your heating system, so they're both working at the same time, through to maybe thinking about some generation, so potentially solar for small businesses who are operating during the day is now a viable option.
So where does it all go from here then, Jenny? We're really only at the very start of all this, aren't we?
I think it will only grow. People are becoming more aware. There's obviously the net zero by 2050 kind of that's in the back of everyone's mind at the moment, but we all need to start making changes now to kind of get to that point. So, in the future, people need to be driving electric vehicles, and you need to think about how you're going to charge it and all sorts of things like that. So, it's going to be more and more apparent, and people need to start doing stuff now.
Jenny, Sam, Dave, thank you.
Pure Brand Media, audio production for business.
Well, we hear the expression "the future is now" in many contexts, but in the case of an innovation event, it really is. Walking around here today, I've been surrounded by mini rockets, robots, drones and the like, and I've been asking companies to channel their inner fortune teller and predict the biggest trends to hit the business world in the coming years. And in the short term, I guess it's no surprise, we're talking the B word. Claire Lassiter is from Pure HR.
Well, of course, we've had the Brexit question recently. So what that's meant for employment legislation for the last 3 years is that there hasn't really been an awful lot in the way of developments. So when Brexit happens or doesn't happen or is resolved in some way, then we can expect there to be lots of different things coming through in terms of legislation, because there's just been this pause for quite a long time. So for employers, the impact of that is going to be that they need to keep pace with what's happening, and we anticipate there will be a raft of different things coming through that will change what people's rights are. So that means reviews of contracts, maybe even policies as well, to make sure that people are still compliant with that legislation as it comes through.
So what's the biggest thing that you think is going to impact businesses?
I think the labour market's going to be quite challenging. Of course, we've already seen in many respects the labour market change because people are so concerned about other EU nationals that work in the UK and where do they stand, and it's just going to be more difficult to get the level of professional labour that you need moving forward in some areas, especially if there's lots of restrictions on immigration as well, because actually immigration is absolutely crucial if you're in a very specialist marketplace.
And with regard to the workplace, Andrew Barnett from Internet of Things company FlightTrack says technology has already started to change things.
I think, having been in technology the whole of my life, certainly the last 5 years, all of the pieces of the jigsaw have started to fall into place. So wireless communication, the GSM network is finally delivering data speeds that are sensible to use. So it's all coming together around about now, which is a great time to be.
How long do you think it will be before we see some really quite significant changes in the workplace?
I would have thought 5 years, as quick as that.
That quickly?
Yes.
And what sort of changes do you think we can see?
Well, I think people's free working will become infinitely more easier, and therefore the work-life balance will be infinitely easier, because people will be constantly connected, and they won't necessarily need to be constantly connected from an office. So that's the first thing. The logistics of getting people to and fro will improve, and truly connected transportation.
5 years is very quick, though. A lot of people are working towards sort of 2050 as being the kind of key date in their mind.
Well, yeah, and some of that is driven by old ways of thinking, and could say government governance. But what has been shown, certainly with the billionaires, they are not prepared to wait till 2050 to move the agenda, and so government and local government are struggling to catch up with the new revised, refreshed timetable.
So with rapid changes afoot, what are the first changes that we'll see? Colin Breckenridge of Breckenridge the Growth Agency thinks that AI will be the catalyst.
People will develop software that's using AI to actually do a lot of the standard jobs that are done within those industries. And we see that in the next 5 years. In fact, the statistics we found coming from America predicted something like a 20% job loss in some of those areas. There will be new jobs created with robotics, data analytics, software development, but a lot of those traditional secure desk-based jobs in areas that people don't relate to robotics and car manufacturers, stacking shelves and so on, they're the ones that are going to have the biggest impact, and it's starting already, and it will be people who can develop clever algorithms that can actually change the whole nature of the way people provide those services.
So can you give some examples of some of the roles that might, you think, be affected by AI?
Well, I think one area that you might not think is in legal profession. So a lot of the ability to review legal documents and so on, they've actually developed AI software that can outperform barristers, to be quite honest. Now, obviously, there are various issues in that, but if you imagine the number of staff that, say, a law firm would require that are doing some of the repetitive day-to-day, the contracts and so on, you may find that one person can then handle 4 or 5 times the volume because they can use AI software to really examine documents and find issues that need to be addressed in a fraction of the time that it would take a senior partner to read those documents. And the same will happen with insurance and finance. But even the medical industry are going to use robotics. Surgeons are going to use robots to actually perform operations. They'll control them, but they will use. And then the idea is you could control that robot remotely. So you could have a surgeon in Southampton doing an operation in Newcastle, and that's not far away.
And Gareth Miller, MD of marketing and comms agency Carswell Gould, agrees that it's all about AI.
The big thing in marketing is AI. I think that's going to have the huge effect on our industry and change what a lot of the marketing professionals' expertise is in. It's a real time of kind of evolution for the industry. It feels a bit like kind of the next gold rush or the internet boom, and I think if you're not on board with AI, then you're going to become a bit of a dinosaur.
So people think of AI as sort of robotics, really, picking in warehouses and robots in the corner of your house. I mean, how do you think it will really affect marketing? Because that's obviously a real people-focused industry.
Yeah, marketing is all about making predictions. And obviously the one thing that AI is particularly strong with is making predictions. A computer that's machine learning is much more efficient than making predictions, and marketing is a fairly simple profession at that level. So things like media buying and things like content are going to be able to be automated through AI very soon. I say very soon; it's happening now. There's technology out there that's already doing that. So if you can create in Facebook an ad that is created by AI, the content and the placement is all based on machine learning and actually optimized through AI. There's software out there at the moment that you can create content with that's based on the behaviour of the people that you're targeting. We're a HubSpot partner. One of the things in HubSpot is their content strategy tool, and that's powered by AI. So it's out there already. People are using it. I mean, in our daily lives, we're exposed to AI every day. So Google Maps and the fact that showing you where the traffic is, there's no one at the other end at Google typing in that the traffic on the M27 is particularly heavy. That's all based on real behaviour and the machine learning that traffic is going slow in that area. And most people have Alexa in the corner of their home. So we are already immersed in the world of AI, and that's only going to become a bigger part of everyone's lives.
So finally, what should businesses now be doing, thinking about the future?
There's a lot of tech out there that people can use AI. There's a lot of larger corporate businesses are investing heavily in AI and creating their own platforms. I know a lot of the American banks for content that's created around financial reports and things like that, that's all AI driven. But smaller businesses, there's lots of little bits of kit that people can be investing in and starting to use. But in all the tools that we're using, I mean, Google is, with their DeepMind project, is at the head of the game anyway in terms of AI. And if anyone has Gmail and you're starting to type something, then the predictions that it's making based on AI are making everyone's lives easier. So I would say don't ignore it, embrace it, see how it can take away some of the drudge, I guess, of your daily lives. So my advice is investigate those, find out what's best for you, and actually ask the questions about what you're trying to do as a business, and is there a solution that will make that easier. And it might be AI, it might be something more traditional, but use the tools that are available and emerging, and stay aware of the developments, because it's coming thick and fast, and the world will be a very different place in 2 years' time.
Thank you for joining us for this very first Pure Brand Media Technology and Innovation podcast. We hope you enjoyed our look at some of today's key topics and our small peek into the future. If you'd like to subscribe to future podcasts and to find out more about taking part in future episodes, please visit our website at purebrandmedia.com/podcasts.